What's up, y'all? My name is Spencer, also known as Mostly Peaceful Polynesian on TikTok, YouTube, and Rumble. Today I'm going to be reacting to my debate that I did with Destiny in San Francisco, live in person, a few months ago. This was part of a larger debate tour that he was doing called the Anti-Trump Tour, where he went around to various cities across the nation, for the first time ever, by the way, to debate fans and common people in person and give them a chance to present their arguments. So I highly support that. It was an opportunity that hadn't come around in the past 10 years. For some reason, the liberals only wanted to debate in person, respectfully, in the wake of Charlie Kirk's assassination. So there's some criticism I have there. I think it's just kind of slimy to do in the wake of Charlie Kirk's assassination for that to be your first time going to engage with the opposition in person. I think that's kind of slimy. But I need to give you a little bit of context on the experience of the event, what made me choose to go to this event. And it's because I was interacting with all these influencers on Twitter, for the past 10 years. I've been a fan of this kind of content, of debate content, of political content. But really, if you're just interacting with them on Twitter, that just means you're replying to posts, you're trying to reach out to them, and they probably just think you're a bot. So ultimately, you're just shouting into the void. That's not really productive. I saw this as an opportunity when I saw it online to take advantage of the opportunity of a lifetime, put my skills to the test. I'm just a normal person. I'm not a trained debater like a lot of these other people in Hollywood politics who debated in university, debated in high school, make the counter argument, play devil's advocate. That's not me. I'm just going to represent my own positions, and I'm just a normal person with a 9 to 5. So I decided to use his platform too, and his reach, and his camera crew to go to this event. And fortunately, I performed pretty well. I would say actually really well for my first ever formal debate. And on this video is called MAGA Confront and Debate Destiny Live on YouTube. Go check it out. It's on Destiny's channel. If you're really into debate content, there's a lot of other good, this is kind of like the highlight reel from each of the cities that he went to. There were more debaters if you want to check out like the San Francisco specific video. Go look at that, but definitely check out some of these other personalities because I think we got a good mix throughout the video. But I thought this would be a good first video to upload to my channel, just to give you a sense of who I am, what I'm about. I am a MAGA conservative. I have been for the past 10 years, I like to say. So most of my adult life, all of my adult life, I've basically been a Trump supporter. I did vote for Obama twice. No, I didn't vote for Obama. I didn't have the right to vote for Obama. But I would have voted for Obama twice because I was raised liberal. I was raised in California, surrounded by Democrats, surrounded by people that hate me. And I think that kind of sets the stage for why I was able to hold my frame in this debate against someone as skilled as Destiny. He's a pretty ruthless debater, but we had a good faith conversation. It's going to be a long video today, but before we get into the reaction, I did want to add to the context of my experience at the event. So I was already going to San Francisco for the weekend, and I spent the day prior with my friends, so that was nice. But I was really prepping for this debate, prepping my main line of argumentation, my main thesis, and I was trying not to over prep because I was nervous. I'm I'm a normal person, and you'll probably see some of the nerves in the video, but nonetheless, I was able to hold frame. And since this was in the wake of Charlie Kirk's assassination, there was a lot of tension going on. I think it's kind of a slimy thing to do for them to hold these debates for the first time in person, only like first time in the past 10 years, only after Charlie Kirk gets assassinated, which conveniently is the time where most conservatives don't feel safe to debate in person. And so I roll up into a very liberal city, I go to the event, take an Uber to the event, and it's basically just like a marina building, which is like a warehouse. It looks like a prison block though, on the pier of San Francisco. They have a bunch of different marina buildings. And so I show up to the event location, and there's a bunch of different marina buildings and people hanging out. And I'm like, where do I go? There weren't any signs. They weren't trying to broadcast it. So I actually went to the wrong building, and they were prepping for an event the next day. But finally, once I found it, there was a guy standing outside, and he was like, "You here for Destiny?" I said, "Yes." He opened the door, and there were some fans, Destiny fans. I didn't know at the time, but there were some Destiny fans waiting for the elevator to go up because it was on the 3rd floor. So there was 2 other guys there, and I thought, I'm going to use this as a networking opportunity. Let me see if I can chop it up with them. And I just said some normal things like, "Hey, how's it going?" You know, and they immediately gave me the cold shoulder before even like knowing what my positions were, before even knowing I was MAGA. And, you know, that didn't bother me at the time, but in retrospect, it bothers me. We go up to the 3rd floor, and they have a curtain, they have a security check, they let us in, and it's basically just a theater. It's like where all the seats are like angled above, so you're kind of looking down on the stage. And I saw Destiny in there setting up his cameras, working with his camera crew. And I've been to 2 events where I've seen Destiny doing this, and he's had to carry the weight of the setup. And something goes wrong and his crew messes up. So it's kind of funny to see that. And I just wanted to set the stage for this. It was a very intimidating, very hard format to have your first ever formal debate in. It's probably one of the hardest formats out there right now. You know, even going on Piers Morgan wouldn't be as hard. You kind of have allotted your time to speak. You don't really get into the details. And in this kind of debate where you're sitting right across from Destiny on a stage, cameras on you, nowhere to go, nowhere to escape, I think that actually is a good thing to have on my resume if I'm trying to become a serious debater. It is good context to have on my resume. So without further ado, let's get into the event. Check out this video, MAGA Confront and Debate Destiny, live on your free time. But get in for a wild ride.
Wow.
What do you got for me? Are you a Trump guy?
I am a Trump guy.
Hold on, let me see. Let me check the audio.
Ooh.
Well,
I think we're good.
I voted for Trump. Not going to defend everything, but
3 times or?
Yeah, I think that's good.
yeah, 3 times. No,
Okay.
No.
You go a little higher.
Basically, my first question is, why?
Wait. Can I ask how old you are real quick?
I'm 26.
Okay. All right. Just curious. Okay. Go ahead.
My first question is, why is it incumbent on Trump to come out and condemn all political violence post Charlie Kirk assassination?
I feel like there's like a basic like humanity thing that I think every human being should have like an instinct when they see violence and like a healthy environment to want to discourage it as much as possible. I think that when people are calling for violence or when people seem to be okay with violence, I think it says something about what their political goals are or what their goals in general are, or what their morality is. I mean, Donald Trump is the de facto and de jure head and leader of the nation, the head and leader of the Republican Party, and I mean, I guess it's controversial to say this, but like, I mean, a lot of political violence comes from the right, or is at least happening to the right.
These are 2 different things, whether it comes from the right or it's happening to the right. These are contrasting statements. But it's still early. We'll give Destiny a chance.
So it just seems morally deficient and character deficient for him to not seem to want to make statements to bring the temperature of the country down like Biden would.
But then I would just say that your reaction to Charlie Kirk's assassination wasn't necessarily human either. There wasn't a human element there either. So
I feel like there was a very human element to my reaction. It's pretty not too common that you watch people that you've ever like interacted with get killed before. And then the idea.
Oh, hold on. Sorry. So they actually mess up with the cameras and the audio, I think. But they mess up with the cameras here for a little bit. So it's literally just going to be like a black screen in a little bit. But fortunately, it doesn't last too long. And please just bear with me. You can still hear the audio.
be in similar situations potentially. I think it's kind of unnerving. I think it's fair for me to say that. When this happens in my country, and then the next day I see the president of the United States just saying unhinged statement after unhinged statement after unhinged statement, I think it's fair for me to look at more than just kind of like the virtue signal position and try to think more strategically of like what needs to happen to actually make the country a calmer.
Let me run that back real quick.
Either. So
I feel like there was a very human element to my reaction. What like is pretty not too common that you watch people that you've ever like interacted with get killed before. And then the idea that you would be in similar situations potentially, I think is kind of unnerving. I think it's fair for me to say that.
It is unnerving.
When this happens in my country, and then the next day I see the president of the United States just saying unhinged statement after unhinged statement after unhinged statement, I think it's fair for me to look at more than just kind of like the virtue signal position and try to think more strategically of like what needs to happen to actually make the country a calmer place. Because so far, Democrats disavowing violence over and over again hasn't seemed to work.
that's my point, is that it seemed like you were setting up some kind of rule where it's like before you make any principled statement, you have to say, or you have to hear it from Trump first. And I don't think that's a requirement. That wouldn't be my rule, basically. Like, I think you could just have a principled statement. I mean, I understand the prisoner dilemma stuff, but you could just have a principled statement. And I think not everyone, the culture isn't necessarily run by the president. I think nowadays it's run by online media, and I think you're the biggest influencer on online media.
You don't think
And so
Trump is
that's
a big
why-
influence in online
that's
media?
why I'm looking to you.
Okay.
That's why I'm looking to you. That's my rule of you should come out, especially if it's done by a lefty, you know, like the Charlie Kirk assassination.
I don't know if that guy was a lefty or not, right?
I think there's pretty solid evidence.
I think there's zero evidence so far that he was a
Zero
lefty,
evidence?
right?
like, well, I mean, what do you think about the bullet engravings?
I mean, all of them so far seem to be Epic Gamer references or whatever.
what is that supposed to mean? Or like,
They're just, like they
What
come from
is
games
that
and TV shows and
supposed to
stuff.
that could still indicate a leaning, though.
It could.
That
I'm not saying I'm not saying it's impossible that he was left leaning. I'm just saying there's not really any good evidence of it right now.
Okay, but like probably more, I think good enough evidence. Like you wouldn't bite the bullet and just say
I was
that
going to say more evidence than not.
he's probably a lefty.
Absolutely not.
You wouldn't?
I just don't think there's great evidence. I think right now,
If he's trying to take out one of the conservatives' top guys, what would be the reason for that?
I mean, he
if
could
he
have just
wasn't.
he could have been like a closeted gay guy who just hated the fact that like he was anti-gay, like he lived with a trans roommate and everything. He
look
could
at
have
this.
just hated political people in general. He could have been trying
terrible.
to impress somebody. I don't know. Apparently, one of the Reagan assassins, or wannabe assassins, tried to do this. Like there are a lot of potential explanations. Whatever the explanation is, it could be an exceptional explanation because it's an exceptional event. But I'm just saying there's not solid evidence where it's like, oh, this guy's definitely radicalized by the left, right?
But that doesn't outweigh, I think, the bullet engravings. Like he didn't have to do that. He's doing that so people can know. He's claiming it. He's openly claiming it. So it's like that.
If he was, then
whatever
why would
that
there be any ambiguity at all, right? Like, there's no Discord logs of him being super left. There's no public statement of him being super left. Whatever the note was that supposedly.
There would be ambiguity because that would be coded incitement of violence. Like the only way for it to be coded incitement of violence would be if there was ambiguity. So, is he basically just denying the possibility of coded incitement of violence? That's ridiculous. It has to be explicit. Hey, people have to come out and claim it, like ISIS.
Bro, I guess that wasn't anything super left. None of the text messages indicated he was super
This
left.
is
Like
the
he didn't
guy. Hold on.
his mom, who's super MAGA. My mom says I'm super left. Okay, no,
It was that chipmunk who ruined it. Chipmunk guy.
but
I mean, I think that could just be like a coded, edgy thing to do.
yeah, but
And,
how
like,
stupid would it be
how
to do
much
a coded message when you're trying to make a statement to the world that you're doing a political assassination?
well, like you're saying like you.
That wouldn't be stupid. Like I said, that is the nature of coded incitement of violence. He wouldn't be crafting the message to influence others to commit violence. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying he just used coded terminology because it was edgy and because he was already going to do the violence. He was already going to commit the assassination. And that's why it was on the bullets. That's why it was on the bullets. He wanted people to know.
Have 100% evidence.
I'm saying
in order
like
for
having
that to-
10% would be
in
nice.
order for that to outweigh the evidence that he's not.
When we talk about rhetoric, the people who would be affected by the rhetoric are the people who will listen to the rhetoric to act in accordance with it. You understand? who will make statements, opinions, take actions and behaviors that follow what the rhetoric is leading them to believe.
No, I think I'm think in a less charged environment, I'm taking like I'm just looking at all the facts. It is weird that like if you look through this guy's history, if you look through his roommate's history, they look like aggressively normal people. Like their whole history is like so normal in terms of like comments online and everything. And that's really
Sorry guys, I know this is just a black screen, but bear with me, it shouldn't be too much longer.
normally you see like really radical stuff. But like unlike the other side, because conservatives don't do this, I extend the same courtesy to
There we go.
The I think the trans church shooter. No, I don't think it was.
I don't know that one.
It was either them or somebody else made a statement, or they said something like they supported Brandon Herrera or something. Did anybody remember this?
And so right now we're just kind of feeling out the vibes, getting into the intro. And both of our vibes are very civil. I come off as a very nice guy up front. But I think that hurts me later, or in the middle of the debate. I would say the middle of the debate is probably my weakest portion, just optically. My arguments stay defended the whole time, you'll see. But just optically, I could have performed a lot better. But still, not bad.
It was a church person, yeah. But like looking at the context of everything, that person was like, "This is a meme statement. This person's not actually like a supporter of this guy, or if he is, it's like for non-related reasons, right?" So like I extend the same thing there. I'm not gonna say like, "Oh, this guy was 100%, a right-wing radicalized by Brandon Herrera person." I'm just saying like in the totality of things, like this shooter for Charlie Kirk, there's like nothing. There's not much here besides our bullet writings in terms of.
Well, I don't know that specific situation, but if you wanted to go to the Hortmans, I would say he has more evidence of being a left winger than the Hortman shooter was of being a right winger.
Why?
Remember this. I bring up that's a bad clip. But remember that I bring up the Hortman shooting. Remember that.
Didn't the Hortman person like literally have a list of Democrats that they wanted to go and kill?
He also had the No Kings protest flyers there as well. So I'm like, I don't really know what to weigh. It seemed like he was more in a mentally unstable position than.
It seemed pretty like driven and on a
you're
mission.
saying
No?
the Kirk shooter was.
I don't think there's any evidence for either of these guys being like I'm saying crazy, very specifically like psychotic or.
So the normies will go, "Oh, he stumbled. He lost the debate right there. He doesn't know what he's talking about." They don't know what they're talking about.
Or something, like hearing voices or something. Like I think they both did what they did for probably like logical reasons, like they could explain them from start to finish. I don't obviously support it. I don't think it's good.
But I mean, the crux of it is you think.
Backing up.
The turning down of the rhetoric should come from the president. In your mind, in my mind, I think it should come from online media influencers because they are influencing the culture. And
yeah, but everybody on the right takes notes from Trump.
I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think the right takes notes from Trump.
Everybody takes notes from Trump.
What do you mean? Like
on everything? Epstein.
Let me explain. So like,
okay,
the online media culture.
Well, and there's also the point of like the source of this violence. We're talking about the Charlie Kirk assassination, is not coming from like a Trump voter or someone who would obey Trump's rhetoric. This is coming from someone that would obey Destiny's rhetoric or obey left-wing media influencers' rhetoric or left-wing politicians' rhetoric. So it just doesn't make sense to hold Trump responsible and like this is going to have any material effect when they wouldn't even receive his rhetoric in a way that would be in accordance with what he's telling them to do. So that's Destiny's whole argument is that, we have to listen to the president, and the president is where we should all be getting our rhetoric. But the only meaningful way you would be using that rhetoric is to behave in accordance with the rhetoric from your leader. So, in other words, Trump coming out to condemn or to say to stop the political violence wouldn't stop a leftist or a liberal from committing violence because leftists don't listen to Trump's rhetoric. They don't obey Trump's rhetoric. If they were to tell him, okay, if Trump were to say stop becoming trans, they wouldn't listen and they would still continue to transition. Like, what is this? Let's get back.
I think the people online, the young men online, were doing the work for Trump. No matter what he said, we were doing the work to get him elected, and that's really what won him the election was the online media and the rise of independent media, online media, not necessarily politicians. It's why Trump can say crazy things and Biden can be, senile, and it doesn't matter to people.
But I think it does matter. I think it says something that when Trump says crazy things, people go out and do crazy shit. Like, nobody's citing Biden.
We'll trace that, though. Like, what has he said that has led to someone...
I'm not criticizing Biden, by the way. I'm not criticizing him. So this is just begging me to criticize Biden.
Something.
Well, like he said, the 2020 election was rigged. He said that mail-in ballots were fake. He brought a ton of people to the Capitol. They went and did some crazy shit. There was the recent guy who, the kid who live streamed himself running over those two girls, who followed like a ton of like Trump and Charlie Kirk shit. And he said that these two girls were like making fun of Charlie Kirk's death. In terms of like,
I don't know about that. I don't know.
I know that's always a secret defense.
No, I really don't. Seriously, I don't know about that one.
I understand, but I feel like that's a big part of the problem. I feel like conservatives only ever hear about the things that like are the most relevant to them, and then
no, like I'm online, I'm on Twitter every day. I watch like a lot of video. I watch like a lot of videos.
Mm-hmm. I understand.
Everyone here is
but I'm saying that like if I were to like say that like I'm on Twitter every day, like we're seeing different things unless we're going out explicitly looking for contradictory evidence.
I know.
Right?
I'm talking like the big name stories. Like my first example was a Charlie Kirk assassination.
Yeah, but the big name stories are what conservatives want to be the big name stories, right?
Not really. Not really. I would say the Trump assassination attempt and the Charlie Kirk assassination are objectively big name stories in a way where, something smaller wouldn't be a big name story. That's pretty significant.
Do you agree that
Huge
it was
political impact.
So I would say that it was unacceptable. I would say this is an instantaneous impeachment, like exile from the country moment. When Donald Trump was asked by, is it Caitlin Collins? Is that her name? Yes. When she was at, I think it was her that asked the question. Well, she said, you wanted to lower the flag to half-staff for Charlie Kirk.
I know who Caitlin Collins is now, but I didn't know up on stage. I think she's a liberal journalist, but I'm not really good with names and like names of people. But if you showed me her face, I would have probably recognized her.
Do you think in retrospect that it's kind of in poor taste that you didn't do this for the Hortmans when they were killed in Minnesota and Trump didn't even know about it? Like, that seems exceptionally crazy to me, no?
And Trump did. This is my first time hearing this story.
I know.
No, I'm serious.
And so this is where I kind of look,
down. You fuckers don't know about shit unless I watch
bad optically because I didn't know about his counterexamples. But I don't have to know about his counterexamples, I'm still engaging with the hypotheticals that he's about to pose to me, all the hypotheticals that he poses to me. And you could just explain the example as if it were true and then get me to say, is this good or bad? And that would prove if I'm consistent or a hypocrite. So it's like, I don't even need to know your counter arguments. No one is ever going to know all of their, well, it's not even counter arguments, it's counter examples. You can actually probably hold me responsible for knowing his counter arguments, but not his counter examples that he's citing as evidence. Like, you have to draw that line and you have to tie that to your thesis. If it wasn't clear, my thesis is that I have a rule that it makes more sense to listen to online media influencers' rhetoric from the side that is committing the political violence, because the people who are committing the political violence are listening to the leader of that culture, the leader of that side's rhetoric, which I'm determining to be online media influencers. He's focusing on politicians. I don't know if he understands this yet, that I'm really targeting his thesis and his underlying rule. I think he just wants me to say a bunch of things that are bad about Biden and provide a bunch of examples for that. But it's like, that's not what the conversation is about.
Okay, so fuck you guys. Motherfuckers. I know how this shit works, okay?
So I just don't feel comfortable commenting on something I don't really know the whole case for,
Let's assume that was true. Would that be a disgraceful, disgusting moment?
That he didn't lower at half-mast?
No, that he didn't even acknowledge that he knew about it. He was like, I don't know, who's that?
That would be bad. But
Did you ever see the video after the shooting happened where somebody asked him outside the plane, they were like, are you going to call, Tim Walz and talk to him? And he was like, that guy's a whack job or whatever. I'm not going to call him or say anything.
No.
Okay. If he did say that would be kind of bad too, though, right?
That was too fast. I didn't.
If he did say that, though, that would be bad, right?
What did you say? I didn't comprehend.
That when he was asked, I think outside of Air Force One, they were like, "Are you going to call Tim Walz or have a conversation or reach out to the governor of Minnesota or anything?" And Trump was like, "That Walz is a whack job. I'm not going to talk to him. Whatever."
Yeah. That I would say that's bad.
bad?
I would say that's
Okay.
bad. But
And then just real quick,
since
and then
we're going-
and then you go to your point.
Yeah.
Would you say that those two things together, those two things together are worse than anything that Biden has said in the totality of his presidency about Republicans, or any individual instance of violence ever, or and you can include Obama there too, and Clinton, and the other.
I don't know if I would say that. I would
Like,
have
can you
to- I
think
would
of
have
one
to go
worse?
back.
Yeah, just think of
And by I don't know if I would say that, I mean not necessarily.
maybe not off the top of your head you can't, but like, can you think of one
Yeah.
worse? Like, what's the worst thing that like Biden ever said about a?
Well, I'm not like necessarily like a huge Biden critic or anything. I'm just saying like I know he was escalating rhetoric towards conservatives. Saying
Biden was?
yeah, like what was it?
You're gonna bring up the
Not-
speech,
Oh yeah. It's probably the speech. What was that after? Do you remember?
the MAGA Republicans ones that they're a threat to the country.
I don't know. I don't know what we're talking about.
Is it
at
the
this
one with
point.
the red background where he looks like Darth Vader?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
It is the red background. It is the red background.
So in that speech,
So I look bad here optically, but really this is a part of his question begging to get me to criticize Biden, which wasn't what I was trying to do. That's not the point of my argument. It's not even related to my argument.
right after he says that, so Republicans always quote that one line, but he says, I don't think that all Republicans are MAGA Republicans. I don't even think most of them are. I've worked with a lot of them in Congress, blah, blah, blah. But the thing that he's talking about, and I don't know how else he's supposed to address this, is the fact that the majority of the Republican Party still didn't believe the results of the last election. So when he says that, like, this is a threat to the country,
and they're allowed to believe that. They're allowed to.
I mean...
People are allowed to. Yeah, they're allowed to believe that.
Well, no, hold on. I'm just...
What do you mean when I don't have to?
I should have just sat in that silence, but I bailed him out because he was being good faith. So I decided to be good faith too.
This, but what do you mean? Do I believe it or not?
No, I didn't ask if you believe it. I'm just saying that, like, well, if people are allowed to believe that, then that means that Biden should be allowed to believe that they're a threat to the country, right?
There was a heckler there too. All of his fans are just gazing down at me. They hate me, but I'm used to people hating me. And there was a heckler that was like, "Do you believe it?" And so that I thought Destiny asked that question, and I'm like, I don't have to engage with this. You're in the audience. Get up on the debate stage, bro. If you have something to say, get up on the debate stage, bro. Otherwise, your opinion doesn't matter to me. If you're not willing to debate your opinion really doesn't matter. And I treat everyone like that.
If people
are allowed to believe that the election
he's allowed to believe it. I'm just using this as an example of him inciting rhetoric, which is kind of a liberal talking point of like, let's focus on who's inciting the rhetoric. And so I'm analyzing who's inciting the rhetoric, and we keep pointing at instances before the Kirk assassination, and before that happened was the Trump assassination attempts. And I remember your rhetoric on this too. And so
that guy was also a registered Republican, right?
Damning. That guy was a registered Republican?
Both of them were, right?
Well, I don't know if that necessarily matters actually.
Well,
Like,
but if they were a registered left-leaning person, do you think that would matter? If they were
no,
a Democrat?
I think it's enough evidence to say
No,
if they're
actually.
taking out one of the top guys or the president, that means they don't like him.
Well, what about the evidence that
And
the
we live
guy?
in a
What about
two-party
the
system.
assassin for the Hortmans? That wasn't enough evidence there that person and the list of all the other
I'm not
Democrats.
saying there is evidence there. We're working with two different rules. You're
Sure.
saying we should demand that the presidents denounce political violence or condemn it on the world stage. I'm saying
Mm-hmm.
we should condemn online media influencers because they're in charge of the culture now.
Yeah, but I think the
which
right
has a
takes
big
their notes
impact.
from Trump.
I'm just going to disagree with that.
Can you
But
give me any examples where there are huge?
They don't take notes from Trump. Like
when
the
Trump says
right-wing
something, they'll always
culture
defend
was
it.
built independently, which resulted in Trump getting elected.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
now Trump
that's-
works with it, and there's like a top-down like structure where when Trump says something, everyone else is saying it, and everybody supports it.
Like presidents can influence culture from the top down, but it's mostly just in terms of we have the authority to enforce.
Okay, so I think the confusion here, and if to be charitable to Destiny, I think politicians listen to the president's rhetoric, but the people listen to their cultural leader, which would be Destiny in this case, if you're a leftist or a liberal and you're really into politics, because he has the best arguments, he's their champion, right? So there's two separate rules there on top of it. So I understand his perspective. I respect Destiny throughout the course of this debate, and after the debate, I came away with a greater respect for Destiny. That is washed away now because he has made more statements that were coded incitement of violence. But that was like kind of like the middle portion of the debate. I actually start to enter flow state in the later part of the debate and bring it home.
What the culture is saying.
Well, then why did all Republicans seem to not care as much about the Epstein files?
I don't know how that's related.
Well, because if that's what that seemed like they really cared about it for a while, but why did they stop? It's because Trump told them to stop because he said it was a loser issue, and then everybody took notes from him, and eventually that's cascaded through the party. And that's
my whole point is like you can condemn individual Republicans for not if they were big on Epstein files, and then that changed because they didn't want it to get found out. I think you can criticize individuals there. That's my whole paradigm is like we shouldn't be holding people responsible. We should just hold the people. I mean, the only people responsible would be the online media influencers for the culture and the rhetoric. But like you could just criticize individuals. You could criticize Charlie Kirk for what he said. It doesn't matter.
But I don't understand why we think that like the president of the United States can't have a large influence on the culture.
No, I'm not saying he can't.
Then shouldn't he be disavowing violence?
Nowadays, which is different than history, it's the culture is run independently. It's through independent media.
Okay, I disagree, but we don't even have to agree on that point. Shouldn't Trump disavow violence?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so it's a moral failing of his to not disavow violence.
Yep.
And it's a greater moral failing for him to say that violence on his side is somewhat just.
In a vacuum where we're not weighting anything else.
Violence on his side is somewhat. I don't know about that.
So when he was on Fox and Friends, they asked him about like violence.
And when I say I don't know about that, it's not that I don't know. That's an argument that's presented to me. I'm saying I don't necessarily agree with that.
Like when the leftists do radical violence, it's like Antifa or whatever stuff. But when the right does radical violence, it's in response to the left being crazy. So like, in a way, he made it sound like right-wing radical violence was righteous, and left.
I kind of believe that. I kind of agree with that. Like when we trace it back, and I've been following you a long time. I've been following politics a long time. When we trace it back, the first instance for me of like excusing political violence on a big scale was BLM Antifa, and that happened before J6. That happened before J6. So I'm like, I saw a ton of people excusing it, bailout funds for the rioters, and someone at the end of it, towards the end of it, someone was shot in cold blood. A conservative was shot in cold blood about that, and there wasn't any denouncing of violence there. So it is important to go to the first infraction. I'm curious to know what your first infraction.
Well, probably shots fired in the Revolutionary War or something. I mean, like, there's been violence for a lot of U.S. history, right? Yeah. But I'm when I look at the BLM stuff, I feel like there's a difference in that a lot of this is like decentralized. It sucks because conservatives make so many excuses for Trump because of COVID, but they never make excuses for Democrats on COVID, which is whatever, I guess. But like,
I'm not talking about COVID. Where did COVID come in?
Everybody was crazy around the fucking BLM riot time, right? Everybody's inside. We all watched George.
And by the way, the Proud Boys were a decentralized group. Would he have the same opinion about the Proud Boys' political violence that he's calling an insurrection?
Floyd die for 9 minutes and just people fucking lose their minds. I think a lot of the BLM like rioting stuff, I think was bad, destroying it.
Everyone was crazy around the BLM period. I wasn't crazy. I think conservatives were the only sane ones during the BLM Antifa period who stuck to like just what we've traditionally believed the whole time. You know, it's liberals who are acting crazy. So it's like, let's get this straight here.
All this shit I think is always bad. I think Democrats paid electoral prices for it. And I think a lot of them, when Biden came into office, he had to...
Whether or not they paid electoral prices for it isn't the point. You know, they excused and condoned and even financially supported political violence. Even if it was decentralized, it became centralized with the Kamala Harris bailout funds. Come on now. Like, members of government were condoning it and excusing it and ignoring the downsides, ignoring the violence. That's what we're talking about.
To denounce and say that like violence is unacceptable, guys. We can't riot. It's not okay.
But why do you think it's important to say on both sides if we know the side that it came from?
Well, because violence does come from the right, and we should all want...
But I'm asking you for the first example where it came from the right that was before BLM Antifa.
What do you mean?
The first example of like political violence that came from the right that was before BLM Antifa, you know, like in my lifetime.
What about it? Or are you asking for like an example of it?
Because
Yeah, that's what I said.
you get
That
into
example.
a revenge cycle. The first time that infraction's made and politicians don't denounce it and everyone supports it, and we can get into BLM Antifa, but like the first time that's made, then the other side has the prisoner's dilemma of like, okay, well, we can't just be condemning, our sides.
But the Democrats have been condemning their side over and over again, and everybody.
Well, you're kind of just making the all lives matter argument of like, oh, we're
You
condemning.
guys made the all lives matter.
Well, you're making it now. You're saying we need to condemn all violence, even if you knew it came from one side.
Sure, I think we should all condemn all violence. I think that's a pretty
But
acceptable.
that is kind of just an arbitrary rule that you created.
That's not. I think it's a really good rule that everybody should condemn political violence.
Before you can be principled about that. Like, because that's really what's happening is you're saying before
I
I
am
can make
principled about it. I think
before
that-
I can make any statement on Charlie Kirk, it's like I need you
I need
guys
to know
need-
that I have a
and
partner
I
in
need to-
civility.
and I need to ask
Yeah.
President Trump.
Yeah.
I need to ask him, as if that would do anything. I need to ask him to turn down the rhetoric before you, Destiny, make a.
Yeah, that's a principled position. It's better than Trump's, right?
But my principle is better. Is what
I don't
I'm
care
saying.
about your principle. I care about the president, the leadership of the United States, right? You acknowledge that I have a different. Wait, you
Why don't
acknowledge
you
I have a
care
different
about my
principle than
principle,
Donald Trump,
Destiny?
right?
But I'm here to.
Why don't you care about my principle? I'm a human too. Come on now. My principle's better than Trump's. How about that? My principle's better than yours and Trump's.
As you like that. That's what I'm
Okay,
here
well
for.
then my position is
But-
that
but
I think
we-
that it's
we
I think that it's
compared
as
it.
somebody
We already
who's
compared
a
it to Donald Trump.
what?
We already compared it to Donald Trump, and I'm saying if you go back, my paradigm.
So you think
lasts
it's
longer.
immoral? You think it's immoral to have the position of, I'm willing to condemn violence. I condemn all violence. I'm willing to condemn any amount of violence as long as my civil partner is on the same page as me and is willing to condemn it as well. Do you think that's an immoral position to hold?
What I'm saying is my paradigm lasts, I'll run this back too, but my paradigm lasts longer before you encounter problems. And what I'm saying is his rule does not last very long before you start to encounter problems in excusing political violence. For example, if you have one side that commits all the political violence, and we're both applying Destiny's rule of both sides have to come out after a violent event and say that all political violence is bad. First off, that doesn't do anything, so it's like kind of a useless rule in and of itself. But then it starts to both sides the issue and undermine who's really the problem here. Like if you had one side that committed all the political violence, they would really be the problem here. So it starts to both sides it and excuse it, just like the all lives matter argument. Like just think to yourself, what was the problem in the beef everyone had with the all lives matter argument? Apply the same logic here. Whereas mine, we can target who is responsible for that event and criticize individuals. Like, what's the problem here? And you get closer to the true nature of who's responsible for each event. And it's just got to be accurate. So, like, that's what I'm saying.
Not an immoral position necessarily.
Let's run
I'm
that
just
back.
like,
I don't know if I heard that last point. 42. Let's go here.
To have the position of, I'm willing to condemn violence. I condemn all violence. I'm willing to condemn any amount of violence as long as my civil partner is on the same page as me and is willing to condemn it as well. Do you think that's an immoral position to hold?
not an immoral position necessarily. I'm just like, it seems like what we understand about like principled positions is more in line with what I'm talking about. Is you
How?
can make
Why
it
do you lock your car
can
door
make
at
it
night?
regardless.
Do you lock your car?
It's not a very principled position because you didn't make it beforehand. This is just a tactic that Democrats use to excuse their political violence and try to frame it like a both sides issue.
Do I lock? Yes. I
Why?
lock my car doors, so it's safe. Everything.
Yeah, because
He asked me if I lock my car doors at night. Let's run it back. My bad. Let us run it back. 29. That'll work.
Do I lock? Yes.
Why?
I lock my car doors, so it's safe. Everything.
yeah, because somebody might break in, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, like you take precautions if you feel like I'm
Regardless,
inside.
I don't need him to do anything to lock my doors.
Yeah, I understand that, but like I don't know if you would like necessarily like lock the kitchen cabinet cereal away from like a partner or whatever because they're going to steal it, because you have some level of trust there, right? When you're operating in a civil society, there's some level of trust between you and the other side, or the other sides, or the other parties involved. When that trust is broken, there's no morality or virtue in constantly attacking your own side over and over and over again. I would say that that's actually an immoral position, because all you're really doing is throwing, especially.
You're not attacking your own side. You're taking accountability. Like, I wish I could use that with all my ex-girlfriends. Like, there's no morality in attacking my own side. It's like, no, you're just taking accountability for something.
The more
how is it not like it's the most easiest principle position to take, to like come out and condemn political violence?
I
Like,
agree. That's why it's immoral, because it's an easy position to take. It's thoughtless, it's brainless, and it accomplishes nothing.
The Democrats have always used this just as a weaponization tactic to recuse accountability from their side.
But they don't. Every Democrat came out and criticized the Charlie Kirk for political violence. When Trump got, do you recognize that Trump and Biden react differently? Like when natural disasters happen, that Biden deploys FEMA immediately, doesn't play games with it. Trump plays games with it. Do you acknowledge that?
I don't understand.
Oh, and you don't realize it, but he's on the back foot now. He's bringing up a bunch of other topics to get me to disagree with him on, because he doesn't maybe he doesn't understand my argument. We'll give him the charity to say he doesn't understand my argument, but he's definitely on the back foot because this line isn't working.
At that point.
So Biden will immediately reach out to governors. He'll immediately make whatever funds available needs to be available. He'll call people, talk to people, whatever. Trump will play games. In California, he was saying, well, you guys have to agree to change the water rules, or I'm not sure if I'm even going to send FEMA to blue states. Trump plays games with it. Biden doesn't play games with it, right?
I don't know what that's supposed to mean.
It doesn't have to mean anything. I'm just asking a simple question. That Biden, if there is a natural...
It does have to mean something, or else it's irrelevant to the conversation. That's part of the reason I'm asking, like, all right, what is your point? What does this mean? Because I'm trying to point out that this is actually off topic. How does this contribute to your central thesis? This is how arguments are constructed. It's how they're supposed to be constructed. You learn this from your high school English teacher. First comes the thesis, and that's what matters most. Then all your supporting evidence is supposed to feed in and be related to the thesis.
In a state, you don't have to worry if Biden is the president, if anything's going to happen. You know that he's going to do what he needs to do as president to step up and provide those resources. With Trump, I have no idea. If I was a Californian and a natural disaster came here, I have no fucking idea if Trump's going to actually step up and do what he should do as leader and deploy FEMA in the way that it should be.
I don't know either, but
that's not good, right?
I don't see what your point is.
No, I don't. Stop trying to preempt my argument. I'm just saying.
I'm not preempting his argument for any bad faith reasons. I'm preempting his argument because I want to know what the point of this is. Otherwise, we can say you're purposefully getting me off track, and that's a bad faith tactic. You're purposefully obfuscating and pivoting, and that's a bad faith tactic.
In and of itself, that's a bad, immoral thing, right?
What is?
That Trump won't do his job as president and take care of Americans, all American citizens.
Yeah, sure.
What do you mean, sure? It's a bad thing. It's immoral. Yeah. It's like a huge failing as leader. It's one of the few things.
You have to weigh that against all the other things that he's responsible for.
It doesn't matter what else you said. That in and of itself is like a moral failing. Like he should.
I'll say yes, because it really doesn't mean that much to me. My whole point was... like, why are you asking us to do something before you...
I do love seeing disappointed liberals. It is one of the greater joys in life to see... I'm sorry. I was mean there. I was mean.
It really doesn't mean that much to me. My whole point was... like, why are you asking us to do something before you can make your take?
I've already made my take.
When we know that it doesn't even do anything, you already admitted that, like, the president coming out and condemning all violence doesn't do anything.
When have I ever said that?
You said that at the beginning.
Doesn't seem to do anything.
Hence the political assassinations that happened afterwards. You said that, Destiny.
Wait, I said that the president condemning violence doesn't do anything?
Yes.
What I'm trying to say is Trump coming out and like condemning all violence when applied to Destiny's rule, it doesn't prevent future violence. It doesn't do anything to prevent future violence. So now I'm getting into the argumentation of your rule is useless. Not only is my rule better and it encounters, to my knowledge, it doesn't encounter any problems. and your paradigm encounters problems a lot quicker, but it's actually useless in effect. And we've already seen it be useless in effect. And we can look at a historical standard to see how it's useless. Because this is what the Democrats have been saying for the past 10 years. They've been coming out and just making one statement, I condemn all violence, and then I'm done. And then I'm done. Hold on. Here we go.
It doesn't end up doing anything. Yes.
I don't. Did I say this?
Almost verbatim.
I don't think I said this.
Run it back.
How can I run it back?
They'll run it back.
If I thought that the president disavowing violence didn't do anything, then why would I ask Trump to disavow violence?
No, that's my question. Why would you ask Trump to disavow violence?
We spent the whole beginning part of this debate where you were arguing that the president disavowing violence doesn't matter because the culture is controlled more by alternative media and online figures, and I was saying no, I think the president matters.
All I have to define is my paradigm, which doesn't recuse people of accountability if we just say all lives matter, basically. If we just say we should condemn all violence, that's not the truth of the situation. Like if you were to say the same thing about BLM Antifa, it's like that's not the truth of the situation. This is the all lives matter.
The issue, yeah, but the issue is that wait. So are you just checking? Are you acknowledging that the all lives matter argument was a bullshit argument?
A bullshit argument? No, I'm not taking a position on this.
Because you're using it against me like it's a bullshit argument.
Yeah.
The issue.
No, I'm just letting people know. I'm just letting people what you're using.
Do you acknowledge that if for nuclear weapons, it wouldn't be moral for the United States to just throw away all of our nukes into the sea, right?
Yeah.
And he's bringing up a bunch of different topics right now, which I'm not opposed to. I actually like to apply my rules and my arguments to a bunch of different scenarios, right? But just don't act like I need to know about the example that the details of the example that you are providing. Before you've even demonstrated its relevance, before you've even tied it to your thesis, just don't act like I'm supposed to know that. I'm fine with you bringing it up, but...
It wouldn't be moral for the United States to just throw away all of our nukes into the sea, right?
Yeah.
There's a morality there to protecting ourselves, to protecting our own citizens with a nuclear stockpile, and unless Russia agrees to do it at the same time, we can't do it, right?
Yeah.
So I apply the same scenario to I imagine apply it to the Second Amendment. We apply it to most places in our life.
And he's bringing up a bunch of different topics right now, which I'm not opposed to. I actually like to apply my rules and my arguments to a bunch of different scenarios, right? But just don't act like I need to know about the example that the details of the example that you are providing. Before you've even demonstrated its relevance, before you've even tied it to your thesis, just don't act like I'm supposed to know that. I'm fine with you bringing it up, but...
Civil with people who agree to be civil with us. You can't enforce civility from one side. It has to come from cooperation from two individuals.
I agree with you. That's why you have to call out the truth of who was responsible.
Let's
say all, sure. Like every time just say all, and it doesn't do anything.
Let's roll this back. Let's roll this back, okay? Let's say that there's one side.
And he doesn't follow this rule either.
No, I know that you're not going to agree with this reality, but let's say hypothetically one side never calls out their own side when there's violence. They never condemn their own side when there's violence. They ratchet up the temperature over and over again when there's violence. And then when there is violence on the other side, they say, you guys need to disavow all your violence. Do you think that in that world, is it moral for the other side who maybe isn't even being violent? Would it be moral for them to disavow?
He just brought up the same argument as me. He just brought up the same argument that I brought up.
Yes.
Okay.
I think so.
So I understand the position of that. I understand emotionally like why that feels like a good thing, but I think that emotion is built on a bedrock idea that it's going to be reciprocated. And if it's not ever reciprocated, now for people like me, whether it is, well, I guess maybe I might be more at risk. I don't know. But like for more vulnerable people in society, in terms of who's subject to conservative policy or maybe wider violence, depending on how you view ICE or whatever, I feel like you're throwing all those people under the bus when conservatives are able to just, energize their side, ratchet up the violence, constantly scream, into the microphones that we need a civil war and all this other stuff. And then on the left, you just keep disavow. What's the point of that?
As a response, I think people are calling for civil war now because of the political assassination of someone as high profile as Charlie Kirk.
Yeah, but like Biden, Obama...
World wars were started for that exact same reason, so that's not like...
Biden, Obama, no world war started yet because the podcaster got killed, okay? But Biden, Obama, these people...
Yeah, political assassination.
All these people...
And they tried to assassinate President Trump, which would have been a parallel.
When you say they, you mean Republicans?
No. I don't mean Republicans.
Who's they?
I mean
Republican shooter.
Yeah, okay, fine. Republican shooter.
Okay.
But still, that would start a wars were started for the exact
Sure.
same reason.
What happened after the Republican white kid shooter shot Trump? What did Biden do? I think he increased the Secret Service. He said everybody needs to calm down. He said we should never kill each other for political violence. He said all the right things.
Sure. Yeah.
When this guy shot Charlie Kirk, before Charlie Kirk was even dead, Trump was like on media blaming trans, Tifa, all sorts of crazy stuff. We had no evidence of anything. Isn't that like super deeply immoral that the president and the vice president would come out and start making statements about the shooter before we even knew anything about the shooting?
I would say they probably think they knew more about the shooting. Like I don't know.
What is that argument? What is that? Hold on.
Argument's about.
No. What? Okay. Hold on. They probably thought they knew more. Like what?
No, that matters. Like just like it matters.
It matters what you believe. Hold on.
Like if Trumpers believe the election was stolen, it's the same thing. Like
yeah, but they believe it because Trump told them that. Trump doesn't believe the election was stolen. He just lied. Why? Trump didn't know if the shooter was left-leaning or not. He just said that because it fits his agenda. That's not acceptable for a leader to say, to just start making up theories about the shooting before we even know anything about the shooter, before they even knew anything about the shooter.
It would still matter, like, whether they believe that it actually happened or if they didn't. That would still matter
I would
more.
agree if they believe it actually happened. It makes it even worse because now they're delusional because they have no reason to even believe it. They don't even have any evidence.
I just don't know where this path of argument.
Don't stop trying to preempt it. Just like live in the moment and be a human being.
No, I don't
it's
know.
It's bad when a
know
president.
what your argumentation is.
My argumentation is that the president should have been guessing the motives and the ideology of the shooter before we knew anything at all about the shooter. That's like a deeply immoral, horrible, terrible thing to do.
Before we do anything, yeah. I'll
before we know anything.
Like you just said, if he doesn't know anything, we shouldn't do anything.
He shouldn't make any statements about the idea, right? And then also, like, I don't think
those are two different things. See, he snuck in. That's not what I mean. What he snuck in at the end, that you shouldn't make any statements. You're allowed to theorize about who you think the shooter is. Any person, any citizen of the United States, well, any person is allowed to theorize about whatever they want to theorize about, and it's not irresponsible. But before you prosecute, you should have your evidence. Obviously, before we convict someone of something and punish them, but in the law, we have to have a solid basis of evidence.
So here's another issue. You talk about BLM. Okay, so prior to BLM, like, if we look at, like, the Charlottesville thing, Donald Trump was asked if he would fucking disavow, neo-Nazis or disavow the Proud Boys, and Donald Trump's statement was like, stand back and stand by.
That was I thought that was for J6.
Nice and close to the mic there.
Oh, sorry. I thought that was for J6.
Well, they showed up on J6, but no, I think it was in...
no, but the Charlottesville instance that you just brought up, he was saying that's a soundbite, and then after that, you know what he said? He said, I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis.
Well, but it was a neo-Nazi march, right? Oh, you're talking... Like, so he also said he said the thing about how there were good people on both sides.
And then went to January 6th, though.
Well, no. Hold on. He said that there were the good people on both
so
sides.
What I'm saying is he started with Charlottesville as an example of political violence that came from the right that was before a BLM Antifa, and that's true. But it wasn't excused by the right. It wasn't a political violence that we have evidence that was excused. But then he's saying he's trying to tie it to Trump's statements, and Trump made his statements after Charlottesville and after BLM Antifa, the statements stand back and stand by that he's referencing.
Or whatever, but I think it was like I think it was pretty soon after Charlottesville. He was asked about like denouncing like the Proud Boys and stuff. I think that happened pretty soon after Charlottesville, right? And the statement that he said, it was unhinged. He said, "Stand back and stand by." What the fuck?
Yeah. And that sounds a lot like your coded incitement of violence recently. That sounds a lot like it.
So when Donald Trump said that on Parler, you literally have like the leaders of the Proud Boys. You've got Stuart.
He said stand back and stand by after BLM Antifa, closer to the insurrection, much closer to the insurrection. And that's usually what Democrats use to say that he incited the insurrection. This didn't happen after Charlottesville. Even if it did happen after Charlottesville, before BLM Antifa, you would then have to tie the statements on Parler to their actions on January 6th. And having a huge gap, like a 2-3 year time frame in between when Trump said the statements on Parler to January 6th, just weakens the connection you're using for your argument to say he incited J6. And he incited right after Charlottesville in 2017. Like, we wouldn't apply this standard to any other case, where if I were president and I say something now, and 3 years later someone does something that you can sort of ascribe a meaning to my statement 3 years ago, you can't say I incited the violence 3 years ahead of when anyone took action. That's ridiculous. I get the chain of events. I get that they were pardoned for it. That is excusing the event, which also revolves around the belief of the J6ers and Trump that the election was stolen. That would just prove that after a violent event, it's being forgiven. Which is exactly like Kamala Harris, the presidential nominee for the DNC and candidate that all y'all voted for, when she monetarily indicated her excusal of political violence in the BLM Antifa riots with her bailout fund. And the best part about it is that it happened before J6. So when BLM Antifa kicked off a new era of political violence, and the Democrats, politicians, presidential candidates, influencers, and people all excused the violence, you automatically have no ground to stand on criticizing J6. You instantly become a hypocrite, and you instantly put us in the prisoner's dilemma that you talk so much about. And people have to know how hypocrisy works. If I was raising the sound of alarm that there is mass political violence and shouting in the street telling everyone to care about it, and they ignore it, support it, or excuse it, and then those same people turn around and cry that it's happening to them with J6 afterwards, that's hypocritical of them, not me. This is the nature of the prisoner's dilemma, which Destiny upholds.
But you've got Enrique Tarrio saying, like, heard loud and clear, sir. And then these guys, like, made top secret signal groups, and they organized, like, huge fucking, groups of people to go and break into the Capitol on January 6th. Like, that's like a direct, and then Trump pardoned all those people.
But January 6th was after BLM Antifa. That's my whole point.
But those guys heard their orders loud and clear from Donald Trump's statements before the BLM Antifa stuff, the stand back and stand by.
I don't know if you can prove they're getting it from Charlottesville.
They said it. He said, heard you loud and clear, Trump, standing back and standing by. It was on Parler that they posted this.
Okay, well, I'm not on Parler, so... Well, how am I supposed to... You think I'm on Parler? Is it an
I'm not saying you're on Parler, but I'm saying that, like, these were some of the most important, I would say, court cases in U.S. history, because all these people were convicted of seditious conspiracy. But then, like, so these guys all made big groups of people to break into the Capitol. They were the first ones in on January 6th. And then after they were convicted and a jury of their peers and everything else of seditious treason or seditious conspiracy, afterwards, when Trump was reelected, he pardoned everybody, including these guys. How is this not like a clear signal to, like, do the violence? Like, I'm calling for it, you did it, and now I'm, like, pardoning you for getting convicted for doing the violence that I called for.
Yeah, I mean, I get the logical chain of events. I get the logical sequence in the paper trail, but I mean... conspiracy theory, like all conspiracy theories, are based off of a logical sequence of events in a paper trail. That doesn't make it true, right? Look at what Peter Thiel's doing, and then it's funded by the lizard people. And this Jewish guy took out an insurance policy before 9/11. It's like, yeah, it follows a logical sequence of events, but it can still be abject conspiracy, right? So that doesn't prove the validity. No disrespect to the lizard people either. I just want to make that clear. The lizard people are good people, so no disrespect to the lizard people.
Like, this is the most...
That was hard to trace. I'm just going to be honest.
Okay, Donald Trump said, Proud Boys, stand back and stand by, but let me tell you about Antifa. Yeah. And then Proud Boys tweeted out, they said, heard you, Donald Trump, loud and clear. Then they made a plan to take over the Capitol on January 6th. Then they followed through with the plan on January 6th. Then they got arrested and convicted of seditious conspiracy related to January 6th. And then Donald Trump pardoned all of them related to January 6th.
I think stand back and stand by is less coded incitement and violence than what you have said about Trump's assassination attempts and Charlie Kirk's assassination attempts.
Okay.
Hey, we are Charlie Kirk? No. We are Charlie Kirk. We carry the flame.
But, like, you can look at my community and you can look at the differences in like how people are functioning. Like, I've said like a million times that there should be no political violence in this country. It's a really bad thing. You can't find Trump making these statements. Everybody in my community knows that, like, I don't support political violence, and I think, like, political violence is important. It means that, like, the system is completely failed. Like, everything is, like, going to shit. That civil war is not a good thing. That none of us should want that.
We don't know that.
And that I think both sides shouldn't do it. Remember,
we don't know that. And yeah, I think his chat is actually pretty unhinged. I think those would be the Riddler types to commit political assassinations, who are in the Discord lobbies, who are chronicling chronically online, who never go outside. These are the types of people.
You're looking at the fucking Rittenhouse Defender guy, right? That's like one of the huge things that I cut like a ton of my like community off over, right?
No, and I respect that.
Sure, but I'm just saying that like my position on violence is pretty much like it's a self-defense thing. Like, but otherwise, fuck up. Like, I'm not here supporting rioters ever. I think it's cringe as fuck. Like, I had a debate on Sam Cedar over the fucking shoot. I don't even remember the guy.
It's your right to do it. I'm just saying I don't think that is I think that's a moral hypocrisy from your point, from your standpoint.
What's like the worst thing you think I've said?
I think one of the worst things is probably that the worst thing to have happened was for the bullet to have missed Trump, or speaking on Corey Comptoir's death, that you F around and find out when you go to these rallies, and that what did you expect? I think you said something along the lines of like, what did you expect coming to those?
Hold on.
But like when you say what did you expect, that implies that you should expect that. And that's like way more coded incitement of violence.
When you say, okay, let's follow through on that last one. What do you think I mean when I say that? You should expect that.
I don't know. Like, you're on the other side of the aisle.
No, you have to know. You're giving me a lot of like.
No, I don't have to know. I don't have to.
Well,
know.
No, but you're claiming to know. What do you think? What do you think it means?
I'm judging your statements. I'm judging your statements.
But what do you think? What do you think?
This is my first time I've ever talked to you. How am I supposed to know that?
Well, you obviously have idea. You just said that those statements were worse than Donald Trump's statements, where I can draw a clear line from him motivating people committing crimes and then pardoning them.
Not off of what I think you meant by it.
But words are meaningless. They're just sounds. Ooga booga, right? Like they have to mean something.
They're not meaningless.
No. Hold on. Wait a minute. No. Stop. This is a dumb argument. When you say words, there has to be a meaning ascribed to the words. Otherwise, we're just uttering sounds. If I say random things to you, if I utter speech that means nothing to you, then that doesn't mean anything. You are ascribing a meaning to the things I'm saying. So you said earlier that when I said, what do you expect? That you said that was like a thinly veiled call for violence or whatever. Is that if you follow through for however much of my content you've watched?
Implication. Yeah. No, I think that's a direct implication that what do you expect? You should expect violence if you attend these rallies.
What, and then why? What was the motivation? What was what was my conversation about
I don't know
this?
if that part matters. I don't know if the motivation matters. Why does the motivation matter?
Because when I speak, I say more. I didn't just like go live and then say 2 sentences and then turn my stream off.
Well, that's how tweets work. So you're essentially doing the same thing when you tweet, So I'm not maybe talking about the stream necessarily, but your tweets.
Interpret a whole lot here. I'll try to find a concession if you want to try to find a concession, because I don't understand.
Do you live your life in like 2-sentence quotes? Is that how you view every single?
No. I just trace the statements. I trace the statements people make. That's
what does tracing the statement mean?
Like the objective meaning of the statement, which sometimes there's not going to be an object, and that's where you can throw in coded language.
Hold on. I think all of you guys should. I think everyone in here should eat dogs. Okay.
Yeah.
Would you leave this thing saying, "Wow, Destiny's audience is a bunch of dog eaters, and Destiny wants all of his audience to eat dogs"? Because I said that.
Say that last part.
That Destiny.
His analogy is invalid because in his scenario of him saying to his audience, "You should eat dogs," and them not eating dogs, and me thinking that they're dog eaters, that's tied to an outcome. He's looking at this from a frame of you should be able to predict the outcome based on whatever the statement was and the objective meaning of the statement. I'm just saying there are certain situations, which I applied in my case, where you can trace an objective line from the statement to its meaning. And it can really only mean this one thing. And it doesn't mean other things outside of that. So he's analyzing this from a frame of outcomes, and that's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying based on a statement you're able to predict a singular outcome. And well, actually, I could say that. I could say that in a different case. But just because he has an example where we weren't able to predict the outcome, or the statement made means different things to different people, that's not an example. That doesn't mean that there's not objectivity in certain words and certain statements. The exception doesn't prove the rule, basically.
No.
What is my concession? I'm not going to make the concession that I want violence.
I'll make a concession, but it seems like we're at a standstill. I don't understand. I'm submitting a paradigm.
Well, sure. Here, I can explain, and you can tell me if this sounds like it tracks with every other thing I've said, right? Is that if you engage in a political violence where every single thing you talk about is...
It's not my job to track it, by the way.
the world. Every single party is trying to invade you and destroy you and kill you and take over everything and mutilate your children's genitals and leave the border open intentionally to flood you with illegal immigrants. And then all the words and verbiage you use is like this, like the holy war, the fight. We got to take over the enemy. They stole your government from you, right? If those are the things.
What has resulted from that? And I think my point is.
Wait. Look, I'm just saying that when you say all of these things, right? If somebody shows up at like rallies and starts shooting, that's not that surprising to me, right? Like I'd be like, okay, yeah, like I mean, this kind of makes sense. This tracks, right? This is like the verbiage and everything is like this is the end of the fucking world. Everything is coming to kill you and take your country away and destroy everything. Like, yeah, that wouldn't surprise me if that event had some kind of political violence involved.
But what if Charlie Kirk was preaching that and then someone kills Charlie Kirk? That wouldn't make much sense then.
What do you mean?
That wouldn't make.
What I mean to say is if we're saying that Charlie Kirk has anti-trans rhetoric, anti-immigrant rhetoric, it would make sense if someone were to go out and commit political violence against trans people or against immigrants, right? And you could use that in this case. But it wouldn't make sense it wouldn't make sense that Charlie Kirk was preaching anti-trans and anti-immigrant rhetoric and a liberal person comes out and kills him. That doesn't make any sense. Like, we're talking about in terms of listening to someone's rhetoric. And as I already mentioned before, the left is not going to listen to Charlie Kirk's rhetoric and obey Charlie Kirk's rhetoric, right? So I guess it leads to that, but not in any justifiable way.
Like you just described, lost my train of thought. What was your last point?
That if you're like in a side that's constantly preaching political violence and turning up the temperature as high as you can, it wouldn't surprise me that they're like, yeah. I mean, I would say that kind of flows outward to like a lot of different.
And then there's the part of like, what if most of that, you know, the immigration topic that you see as incitement raising the temperature, what if that's like a real issue, you know?
There is no real issue that requires you to label a detainment facility alligator Alcatraz.
I agree.
That's just cruelty.
I'll agree with that. I'll agree with that.
Sure.
I think that was bad form, and so that's the concession I'll make.
But it's not just. It gives an indication for what the other person, like, what's going on in their head.
Better yet, it wouldn't make sense. So I want to amend one of my previous statements. It might make sense for a trans person or an immigrant to come out and assassinate Charlie Kirk because his rhetoric is anti-trans and because it's anti-illegal. But it wouldn't make sense because Destiny's applying that, he was a Trump voter, that means he's a Trump supporter. It wouldn't make sense for a Trump supporter who agrees with the anti-trans, anti-immigrant rhetoric to come out and kill Charlie Kirk. That wouldn't make much sense. I just wanted to clarify that.
Right. So if the other
person, DeSantis that did like
every single Republican laughed at it and thought it was epic and base and sold merchandise for it and thought it was cool and Kristi Noem defended Donald Trump on it.
But
what?
I said not me, but I'll concede that alligator Alcatraz is an example. That's an example.
Sure. So,
but I mean, like the immigration topic, it was what you cited as incitement of violence. I'd say that's actually a real issue, which was going to be my second.
Things can be a real issue, but also you could talk about them in a hateful or insightful way.
But you can't just say, "Oh, that's incitement of violence."
I didn't just say, "Oh, that's." I just gave you a specific, concrete example of a way that it's kind of insightful, the way that Republicans deal with it when they say things like.
So I think the alligator Alcatraz example is valid. I don't think the immigration topic as a whole can be.
I've never said the immigration topic as a whole, but Republicans don't.
That's how you started. That's how you started it. You clarified and you said alligator Alcatraz, and that's what I conceded to.
I don't think I ever said in general immigration. I feel like I've listed pretty specific things, but
yeah, it was jumbled in there. It's hard to remember everything that you say, but it was jumbled in there.
Okay,
I do know that.
Let's assume that it was jumbled in there. Okay.
Yeah.
Republicans and Donald Trump speak about everything in an existential, hateful way. So when violence results from that, that's just not that surprising to me. I make the same criticism sometimes of Democrat rhetoric. I don't think they've gotten to the point where they're inciting violence. But when they say things like, billionaires own everything, the donor cluster owns everything, I say, like, well, when you leave people no option but to not participate in elections and then to do violence, like that's what people are going to do. That's not surprising.
Which one? Participate in elections or do violence? Which one are we leaving them no option to do?
Both. I think that's what happens. When you tell people that you can't participate in elections.
Those are two different things, though, don't you think?
One leads to the next. If people feel like their vote is irrelevant or their political system isn't responsive to them, then the next step is violence. That's what happens, right? How do dictatorships end? Usually with a coup.
You can't say that happens, but that's not justified. That's not morally justified.
Whether it is or isn't is not what we're at right now. I'm just saying that is what will happen.
This is a moral conversation. I'm critiquing.
And I already disproved why it doesn't make sense that a Republican would kill Charlie Kirk, like a MAGA Republican who's receiving Charlie Kirk's rhetoric and behaving with their actions and opinions and statements in accordance with his rhetoric. It wouldn't make sense that that person killed Charlie Kirk. So I already disproved this in my commentary. I didn't get the chance to disprove it in the debate.
Morality. This is a conversation about morality, not like efficacy. I don't know.
Well, no, but I'm saying, well, sure, but as part of this, what I'm saying is there are certain things that you can tell people that will lead to predictable things. That's what I'm saying, right?
Yep. And what are those things? Yeah.
So, like, if I were to tell like a group of people that there's some guy coming to kill you, and I say this over and over and over and over again, and eventually these people, you know, find this guy in an alley and they beat him up and kill him or whatever. I'm like, yeah, well, that's pretty obvious. That I mean, like, I've told these people forever that they're gonna, get killed by this guy. It's not that surprising that they're gonna kill the dude. Whether or not it's moral for them to do it or not is a separate conversation. But like, that's not that surprising. People have to feel like they have options. If you take all the options away, then violence becomes the only option.
I don't think they've taken all the options away.
Who?
I think Republicans or whoever you think are taking all the options away.
I agree with that. I agree they haven't taken all the options away. That's why I tell people stop being doomer and you should vote and everything and all this stuff. But Republicans, Donald Trump especially, says that all the options are gone. That's why on that January 6th speech he said, like, you have to fight like hell or you're going to lose your country.
Well, because we believe that we are in an existential crisis, and this is an existential world, and all the problems that we're facing are existential.
They're stealing the election from you. They're stealing all the votes are rigged. All
That
the
would be
ballots are rigged. They're taking
existential.
everything. They're rigging everything. The deep state is against you. They're cutting off your children's dicks. The libraries have too many gay books. Like every single thing. There's an invasion right now from the whole Democratic Party's Antifa and their domestic terrorist organization. Everything is like an existential fucking end of the world shit. Like we can't find any Biden rhetoric that matches any of this.
All right, Spencer, final thoughts.
Well, here, wait, we'll let him go. Before we move on to the next Destiny guy, who's like, oh, let's talk about vegan and or whatever.
But I think he actually believes that it was stolen. That's the whole thing. Is like, it's not necessary. If he believes that, he's not just raising the rhetoric. Right?
But he is. You can still believe the thing and raise the rhetoric.
Okay, yeah.
That's why he's doing it. But that's even scarier because now he's justified in that, right?
But what if he was justified in it?
Like then, if he was justified in it, then I think he'd be justified, right?
If the election was rigged in a certain way, I'm not saying the votes itself were fake, but like, what if it was?
I agree with you. Yes, I agree with everything you're going to say. Yeah, but it wasn't.
That would be pretty bad.
It would be.
Well, we could have that conversation about whether it was or it wasn't. But that would still be very bad.
It would be bad, but it wasn't rigged. There was no evidence of it.
Justified in his response.
I understand.
That would be justified.
Yes.
In his response.
But if you were having a hallucination and I was coming at you with a knife and then you killed me for it, right? Sure, but you're hallucinating, right? This is detached from reality. So whether or not something might be personally justified to you because you're delusional or hallucinating is different than, like, is this an objective true thing in the world that we can have good responses to? Donald Trump didn't.
Do you think he was hallucinating? Because it's important.
No, he was lying.
Lying.
Yes.
Okay. So you think he doesn't believe the election was rigged?
Correct.
And he's just saying that.
Correct.
Okay,
because every single person that he tasked with doing an investigation, all of them told him it wasn't rigged.
You also don't have to listen to everything your advisors tell you. And we actually do have evidence of Trump defying the counsel of his advisors.
Every single court case, essentially, but one in like Pennsylvania, they lost. There was no evidence ever that showed that the election was rigged. He had nothing compelling to ever believe any of it, but he still told people it was rigged, and he brought them there to protest the outcome of the election.
And this is where I get in my later videos, which you should go check out, how the evidence that's provided coming back inconclusive is not the absolute truth that the election wasn't rigged. You could still believe in a rational way that the election was rigged without necessarily without the evidence coming back from your investigations being conclusive, with them being inconclusive. Yeah, you could probably say that about anything, but I'm just demonstrating that this just becomes about Destiny's grounding of absolute truth, being court rulings and presidential pardons, jury of your peers, all of which are extremely corruptible. Therefore, it's not a good internal rule for Destiny to appeal to for absolute truth. You can still reasonably believe that.
All right, well, that's a whole nother conversation.
It always is. Yeah.
Like whether or not he believed that it was rigged, that is a whole nother conversation.
Well, if he's believing things with no evidence, isn't that pretty problematic?
with no evidence. No, not necessarily, because you could have an administration.
Okay,
that,
here,
like the Biden
I'll agree with anything you're saying, but I just want you to understand the problem that you've just presented me with. Okay, so this is the.
So what I was about to say is you could have an administration where, let's say, like your investigative bodies, your justice system is completely corrupted, right? I guess that wouldn't be the administration, but let's say you have courts that are completely corrupted from the top down, judge to jury, and they come up with, or investigations are conducted by the FBI and it's entirely corrupted, and you come back with bad evidence. And so to point to that as the absolute truth is fallacious, because we're trusting people, we're trusting other people to produce us evidence of an absence of something, of an absence of evidence. And even then, it doesn't prove that you couldn't rationally believe that the election was stolen still. Because there could be other evidence. There could be things that you just didn't investigate, variables you didn't investigate. You know, there could be fraud out there that you didn't investigate, or the courts were just corrupted, right? So that's why it's not absolute truth.
Comfortable or weird position you put me in this, why I have the position I have when people ask me to disavow violence. What you have laid out is all the justification needed for a violent insurrection to overthrow the government. If you genuinely believe
that's the whole point, is I'm saying.
But hold on. Wait. I can't do anything. I can't do anything to dissuade you of that. I can disavow a million times. It's not going to change your mind on whether or not the election was stolen. It's not going to change your mind on whether the deep state is rigging everything. So unless you guys are willing to come over across the aisle and say, okay, fine, political violence is bad when everybody does it, there's no point in me saying it. All I'm doing is subjecting myself to.
I'm not necessarily trying to have my perspective changed on the election being stolen. I don't see how that's relevant.
Point in doing that. There's no point in doing.
But there is, because
it still leads to political.
There is, because Democrats don't want political violence in this country.
We don't know that. How are we supposed to know that?
Because they disavow it over and over and over and over and over again.
You have the whole other side of, okay, we've analyzed this to death, the right's rhetoric. How about the left's rhetoric? How about the left's
we
rhetoric?
We never talk about the right's rhetoric. What are you talking about?
All right, well, this is just an example where we live in two different realities.
We talk about the right's rhetoric so little that you don't even know a lot of the major things I'm bringing up. What do you mean?
No, I knew a lot of the major points.
You didn't know that Donald Trump apparently didn't know the Minnesota... What?
You brought up fringe cases.
The Hortman thing is a fringe case?
No, I brought up the Hortman thing.
The Antifa shooter, the Trans-Tifa church shooter? I don't think that's a fringe case.
Okay, maybe that one, but that...
The Charlottesville thing? I don't think that was fringe. This was debated a lot.
I knew about Charlottesville.
Okay, January 6th is not... I don't think I brought up any fringe cases.
No, I agreed with most of those. I knew about most of those.
Okay.
The only one I didn't know about was the trans church shoot. I remember hearing about it, but I don't know the details of the case.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of the ones that they've like harped on for. That's why they said that the Charlie Kirk shooter was trans. Because of that church shooting.
I don't care about a lot of the trans rhetoric, to be fair, but like.
I know that's
why
great,
I didn't hear about
you know
it.
what, I'm right there with you, because I'm a cis bi, I guess, whatever, fucking male. So I don't give a fuck about it either. But for people in the country who are having their rights stripped from them, right? It kind of probably is shitty.
What rights are they?
Well, the rolling back of like trans healthcare in a lot of places, the lack of guidance now from the CDC or the NIH relating to like hormones for anybody. In some states, I think they've just made it like fully illegal.
Those could be valid issues of children receiving hormone therapy. That's a big deal. That's a big deal. So those could be valid criticisms.
Yeah.
Aha. So this is actually funny. So I say I don't really care about the trans rhetoric, a position I know Destiny shares, which you can reasonably interpret as a concession, since most of the trans rhetoric comes from the right. So I was willing to leave it be. And so you would think that would mean neither of us are going to dive into this issue in general. Then he dives in because he sees this as an area I might be uninformed about. So he brings up that it's actually a serious topic, assuming I'm ignorant of trans issues as a whole because it is unserious. Then I bring up the serious implications of the trans issue. This exemplifies that I'm not ignorant of the serious implications of serious trans issues. I'm just impartial to the trans rhetoric by the right of trans sports and trans and women's bathrooms, which is the rhetoric that comes from the right. So I still managed to defend my position while kind of snapping back at him trying to gain a point and score a point on me.
It could be, but I can't hear the valid criticisms when it's just veiled with hateful, vitriolic speech.
Okay, I don't know what to say to that. Whoa.
Don't be hateful and vitriolic, and maybe people will take it more seriously.
The hateful and vitriolic speech that I already denounced, like Alligator Alcatraz. Plus, it's not me who's being hateful and vitriolic. Criticize the Tucker Carlsons all you want. I don't care. That's my whole solution. Since you guys don't like the word paradigm, that's my whole solution.
Well, I could point to leftists being hateful and vitriolic.
On Twitter. Do you see the difference? Like the elected leaders, these are the people that when...
I'm the one who thinks that online media is the most influential.
Yeah, but you think that because you consume right-wing media that shows you left-wing TikTokers. Like, your impression of the left comes from what the right wing tells you the left says.
No, I see a lot of the left-wing posts, too, and I'm like, wow. That
the right wing is showing you. Like, you can, like, if
but
I
they
was
still
to
made
ask
the statements, though. They still.
But the people on Twitter, though. But there were no lawmakers, no leaders, nobody that that was like, oh, cool, Charlie Kirk died, right? Every single large figure on the left condemned it.
And I'm saying that doesn't matter, and it doesn't do anything. That doesn't matter, and it doesn't do anything.
I'm just saying, I've never heard of a radical shooter that killed somebody, and they open his diary, and this guy's like, Joseph Biden. This is the guy that fucking radicalized me. I'm going to go fucking get these dudes. It's always somebody more radical than that.
You were talking about the politicians just now.
Yeah.
And I'm saying I haven't seen the left-wing online media influencers, not just denounce the Kirk assassination, because that's just a baseline. That's just basic. But take accountability. I think we're really talking about take accountability or responsibility for. We should at least look to your rhetoric first. If it came from
I would
your
agree
side,
with that, but you guys don't look at the center-left rhetoric. The center-left rhetoric is generally pretty chill. You look at people like fucking Hassan, and then you paint all of us with that brush. That dude wants violence. That's why he flew to fucking France like a pussy to go and have his little clout pussy, hounding farm or whatever over there while he does his little...
I'm all here for the Hassan hatred. And I should have just accepted that. I should have just said, yes, I'm here for it. Let's rip on Hassan.
Shit, right? Yeah, those people do want that. But, like, again, nobody's getting radicalized by fucking Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, right? You acknowledge that, right? Nobody's getting radicalized by these two political leaders, right?
Yeah.
There are people that are getting radicalized by, like, people on the, like, in the right ecosphere that's, like, directly tied into Trump. Like, you will never find on the left a Stephen Miller in the White House. That will never happen. You'll never find on the left a Jared Kushner, a family member who's managing massive...
Well, what do you mean like a Stephen Miller?
There is no family member from the Obamas, from the Clintons, from the Bidens who occupied such huge positions in the White House that were negunegotiating deals in the Middle East, right? You agree with that, or anywhere in the world, right?
Are you talking about Stephen Miller? Or?
No, I'm talking about Jared Kushner right now, sorry.
Okay.
So Kushner was Trump's son-in-law, who was like the architect of the Abraham Accords.
That's nepotism. Nepotism. But you could find someone like Stephen Miller, not saying like, oh, he's as intense, like borderline
in the
fascist,
White House, though.
Borderline fascist.
In the White
House.
But
it's just the right wing's equivalent of what we think is a Stephen Miller.
Yeah, but wait, but I'm just saying on the left, where in government?
Where
in government?
So now we're in his paradigm in the business of politicians and looking at the politicians' rhetoric.
Well, I would name like some representative. This is off the top of my head, but like,
the most radical ones are fucking our AOC,
like
and
the squad.
Biden.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I was going to say like the squad. I was going to say the squad.
Yeah, but AOC and all these guys all condemn the fuck out of the Charlie Kirk shooting and everything. Anyway, these people are not like.
I'm saying that doesn't matter. They're the politicians.
So you think that if we were to take.
I'm criticizing the online media influencers who are in charge of their side's culture. That's what I'm criticizing.
I understand, but I'm saying that the right in charge of their culture just pushes violence. And I'm saying, like, even the honest question.
Give me something to concede.
Honest question, okay? Let's say that Trans Tifa shows up right now and they abduct both of us, okay? And we're in a room and they tell us only one of us is coming out here alive, okay? Mm-hmm. And you get to make the big choice. And what the Trans Tifa super soldier, black trans woman tells you, he says, listen up, okay? Here's what you have to do. I'm giving you a basket. There's two choices. You have Stephen Miller and you have AOC and Ilhan Omar and Rashid Tlaib, and who's the fourth one? The squad. Who's the fourth one? Is it really? I never heard that name. Whatever. And Bernie Sanders. All five of them, okay? Yeah. You have all five of these people, okay? You have them in one basket. And then on the other side, you have Stephen Miller. Now, whichever one you choose, you have to go through and find the worst statements that they've made. And then your opponent, me, has to find the worst statements from who you don't choose. And whoever statements are worse survives. Do you think that you're going to find more like abhorrent, objectionable, crazy, vitriolic stuff from all of those people, the whole squad and Bernie Sanders, or am I going to find worse from Stephen Miller?
I would believe that, but that's because worse is subjective. I would believe that. Worse is subjective, though.
Then like
worse.
I feel like conservatives become postmodernists when it comes time to like have an actual concrete. Jesus.
I don't know.
Did you have any final thoughts?
Yeah, go hit me with your final thought. Yeah.
Spencer.
I'll see time. It's cool.
Are you sure? Yeah.
I mean, I have more topics, but I don't know.
Well, we might bring you back. But we'll see.
Okay.
We're going to give a shot to our other debaters, but we might bring you back. So, everyone, Spencer.
Thank you.
It's not easy to get up here.
There you go. I was poloed down. That's it. Thanks for watching the video. I know it was a long video. I thoroughly enjoy annoying libs on a daily basis. There's another funny guy in here, and he was in the audience. He was laughing after I made that statement, worse is subjective. It's an Asian dude, and he debated at my event. Let's see. Yeah, let's find it. It's a San Francisco one. San Francisco Destiny. I'll just show you a little bit of that.
Then in my theory,
so
nobody's
I'm
been
on
harmed.
that
There's
one
not a person
too.
there to speak yet.
I'm not first.
Okay,
Actually,
well, there definitely is a person there.
I think I am first.
There's a very unique person who doesn't have a past, right? Because it's the beginning of being a person, which all of us have to have at some point, right? At some point, all of.
We moved past the truck guy, who was like a super fucking MAGA worshiper. People were like trying so hard to cover for him that when the picture came out.
Hold on. I'm just gonna do the intro.
That guy is fucking cringe. Anyways, let's go. He wanted to be introduced as Asian guy. Put it together for Asian guy.
I like Asian guy.
How are you gonna drink this? Oh, okay, whatever.
Masked up. You should have gone mask off.
I can't breathe.
Can't read?
No, never mind.
Oh, can't breathe. Oh, it's a George.
So
Floyd
I
joke.
just wanted to start by taking the temperature down just a little bit because I've been a fan of Destiny for a really long time. We actually met.
See, right after I do that whole spiel, he comes out and makes a George Floyd joke. Come on now. He's a member of Destiny's community, though. But this guy was just sunglasses on, masked up. Thought it was pretty funny. All right, guys. Have a good day. Congratulations for making it to the end of the video. And now for the argument of all arguments. When we're talking about inciting violent rhetoric, or violence inciting rhetoric, we're talking about rhetoric that has an effect on people's beliefs, right? Now, if Charlie Kirk's shooter was Republican, he would probably have Republican beliefs, right? He would probably have anti-immigration or anti-trans beliefs, because in the modern MAGA party, as Destiny will admit, we receive our marching orders and all act in uniformity. So why would it make sense that someone who has the beliefs of Charlie Kirk, the Republican shooter, apparently Republican shooter, why would he assassinate Charlie Kirk? That doesn't make sense. Which way do you want to have it? Because it doesn't make sense. He must not be a Republican shooter. When we talk about rhetoric being extreme or being meaningful, it makes sense that you either love it and adhere to it positively, or you hate it and oppose it in your beliefs, in your actions. Now, when we talk about the motivations of an assassin, we want to figure out where his beliefs come from. The Democrats decided to bring up rhetoric as a talking point, and they are now asserting that the way they form their beliefs, the way they've always formed their beliefs, the source of their codes of conduct, are in accordance with President Trump's rhetoric. Do we believe this for a second? No, this is complete bullshit. I might be able to believe that your whole role is to process all of Trump's rhetoric so as to defy it, because they are brain broken by Trump and have Trump derangement syndrome. But they are claiming that we all just need to listen and value the president's rhetoric above all else, no matter who the president is. And we don't have evidence of them applying their rule to Obama, where you are supposed to interpret everything the president says so as to defy it. So they're proven hypocrites there as well. I'm going to illustrate this for you guys real quick. So the rhetoric sends influence downstream to the followers of any sort of political influencer. They use this to figure out what their heroes believe. They only conceive of these influencers as heroes because they value what they believe. chances are they are going to try to emulate them. Destiny's rule on rhetoric is only meaningful if the person who commits political violence would listen to you when you condemn it. If we're saying the person who committed political violence was doing it for logical reasons, not outside of their right mind, then it would only make sense that they attack the person who they disagree with for disagreeing with them, which would be unjustified. Or if they were led by the person giving the rhetoric to attack the group that the hateful rhetoric targets, that would make sense. This demonstrates how you cannot logically claim that the Charlie Kirk shooter was Republican, because it would not make sense to attack the person behind the rhetoric and beliefs that you listen to and agree with. Knowing what we know now, he must not be a Republican shooter.